that every morning you wake up with two choices: to repeat yesterday's patterns or to rewrite your story. The truth is, transformation doesn't happen in a single moment, that it happens in the small, powerful decisions you make daily. You don't need a new year or a miracle. You just need 6 daily habits that can quietly yet powerfully that shape the person you're becoming. So today, let's talk about growth, the kind that doesn't just change your routine, but your entire destiny. That there's something incredibly powerful about mornings. They're quiet, untouched, full of possibility, like a blank page waiting for you to write the first line. Yet that most of us wake up and hand that pen to the world. We reach for our phones, scroll through endless feeds, absorb other people's chaos before even meeting our own calm. That we let the noise of the world decide how our day begins, and then we wonder why we feel disconnected, drained, or restless by noon. But when you own your morning, and you own your mind, and when you own your mind, you own your life. Every day, the universe gives you a gift, a sunrise. It's a reset button, a chance to start over. To design your mindset before the world designs it for you. That first hour after you wake up is sacred. It sets the tone for everything that follows. Think of it like emotional armor. The way you start your day either protects your energy or exposes it. If your first thought is gratitude, you'll find abundance everywhere. That if your first thought is stress, you'll carry tension into every conversation, every decision, every moment. When I first learned this, it shifted everything. That I stopped checking my phone first thing in the morning. I stopped letting emails and notifications dictate my emotions. Instead, I began giving myself time to breathe, to think, to just be. Some mornings I journal. Some mornings I simply sit with a cup of coffee and watch the light pour in through the window. It's not about perfection, that it's about presence. That one mindful pause before the chaos begins becomes a powerful act of self-respect. The truth is, how you start your day reflects how you see yourself. That if you rush, you're telling yourself your peace doesn't matter. If you give yourself time to center your thoughts, to ground your energy, that you're declaring that you matter. Your dreams, your clarity, your mental well-being matter. And that shift changes how you show up for the world. Though you begin to respond instead of react, you begin to lead instead of follow. Let's be honest, growth doesn't come from grand gestures or dramatic life changes. It comes from small, consistent choices that compound over time. Waking up 10 minutes earlier, saying one kind thing to yourself, breathing before you speak. That these tiny rituals may seem insignificant, but they build resilience, confidence, and emotional strength. When you begin your day with intention, that you take back control from autopilot. You're no longer living by default, you're living by design. And this isn't just about productivity, it's about emotional alignment. That mornings give you a chance to check in with your soul. Ask yourself, what do I want today to feel like? What kind of energy do I want to carry into every room I enter? Too often, that we let circumstances define our state of mind. But the truth is, you have the power to set the tone before the world does. That the calm you create within yourself becomes stronger than the chaos around you. There will always be days when things don't go as planned, days when your alarm doesn't go off, when your schedule overflows, when you wake up with a heavy heart. But even then, take one conscious breath and remind yourself this moment is new, untouched, and full of possibility. Every sunrise is an invitation to start again, that to let go of what didn't work yesterday and to move forward with grace. You don't have to control everything that happens today. You just have to control how you meet it. That I believe mornings are where your confidence is built. When you start the day with small wins, making your bed, moving your body, feeding your mind, you create momentum. That sense of accomplishment carries into your work, your relationships, your decisions. You walk differently, you think differently, you lead differently. That confidence isn't born in one powerful moment. It's built through 1,000 quiet mornings when no one is watching and you still choose to show up. And maybe that's what growth really looks like. Not a dramatic transformation, but a gentle evolution. You don't wake up one day and find yourself completely changed. That you wake up each morning, make small choices that align with who you want to become. And one day you look back and realize you've grown, you've evolved, that you've become the kind of person who doesn't just chase success, but creates it from within. So tomorrow, when you wake up, before you reach for your phone, before you rush into the day, pause, take a breath, ask yourself, what do I need to feel grounded today? What kind of energy do I want to share with the world? That give yourself the gift of those first few moments. Because when you own your mornings, you own your power. And when you own your power, that there's absolutely nothing that can stop your growth. We live in a world that constantly demands our attention. Every second, that something is trying to pull us away from what truly matters. Notifications, messages, endless scrolling, comparisons, opinions. That it's almost as if the world has made distraction its full-time profession. But here's the truth. Focus is your greatest superpower, that learning to protect it is the most powerful form of self-respect. The difference between people who grow and those who stay stuck isn't talent or luck, it's focus. That it's the discipline to say no to what's easy so you can say yes to what's meaningful. I've learned that growth doesn't come from doing everything. That comes from doing what matters most. We often think that being busy equals being productive, but the two couldn't be more different. You can fill your day with tasks, meetings, that an endless activity and still end up feeling empty. Because being busy is about movement, being productive is about progress. And progress only happens when you feed your focus and starve your distractions. There was a time when I said yes to everything, every opportunity, every invitation, that every project that came my way. I was running fast, but I wasn't moving forward. That it took me a long time to realize that saying yes to everything is actually saying no to yourself. You dilute your energy, scatter your vision, and lose connection with your purpose. Growth demands focus, and focus requires boundaries. You have to learn to guard your time and energy like treasures, because they truly are. That focus is not just about eliminating distractions. It's about being intentional. It's about knowing what you're working toward and why it matters to you. That when you have clarity of purpose, decisions become easier. You stop chasing everything shiny and start building something lasting. That you stop needing validation from the world because you're grounded in your own direction. Focus gives you peace, and peace fuels productivity. That every distraction comes with a cost, not just in time, but in energy and emotion. Every time you let your attention drift to something meaningless, that you pay for it with your clarity, you pay for it with your calm. And over time, that constant fragmentation of focus leaves you feeling anxious and unfulfilled. The human mind wasn't designed to multitask endlessly. It was designed to create deeply. To grow, you have to protect that creative space. That you have to give your mind the silence it needs to think, to imagine, to expand. I often tell people, learn to create pockets of stillness in your day. Turn off the noise. That step away from the endless chatter of social media. Spend time with your thoughts. Because in that stillness, you rediscover what truly matters. That it's not about cutting yourself off from the world. It's about choosing what deserves your attention. When you feed your focus with meaningful work, positive people, and soulful moments, your energy becomes magnetic. You start attracting opportunities that align with your purpose instead of chasing ones that don't. You see that distraction doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it disguises itself as comfort. The endless binge watching, the unnecessary gossip, the procrastination that feels safe, all of it quietly eats away at your potential. Growth lives just outside your comfort zone. But you can't reach it if you keep numbing yourself with distractions. The more you run from discomfort, the more you delay your evolution. The more you face it, the more you rise. So start paying attention to what steals your focus. Notice the things, people, or habits that drain your energy instead of fueling it. That every time you catch yourself drifting, bring your awareness back. It's like training a muscle. The more you practice focus, the stronger it gets. Don't aim for perfection. That aim for presence. Because growth isn't about getting everything right. It's about being awake to what's happening inside and around you. And sometimes that feeding your focus means saying no firmly, unapologetically. No to unnecessary drama. No to overcommitment. No to anything that doesn't serve your peace. That people might not always understand it, and that's okay. Protecting your focus isn't selfish. It's essential. You can't pour into others if your own cup is empty. That you can't build something extraordinary if your energy is constantly scattered. The world needs your brilliance, not your burnout. When you choose focus, you choose direction. That you start creating instead of consuming. You start feeling aligned instead of overwhelmed. You stop living reactively and begin living intentionally. That's when real growth begins. When you stop letting the world dictate your rhythm and start dancing to your own beat. Every time you say no to distraction, that you're saying yes to your purpose. Every time you stay committed to your priorities, you're building a stronger, more grounded version of yourself. Remember that what you focus on expands. So focus on your growth. Focus on your vision. Focus on the kind of life that makes you proud when you look back one day. Because when you feed your focus and starve your distractions, you don't just change your day, you change your entire destiny. We often speak to others with so much kindness, that compassion and understanding, yet when it comes to ourselves, our words turn sharp, impatient, even cruel. Have you ever noticed how forgiving you are with the people you love? but how critical you can be with your own heart. We tell our friends, it's okay, you're doing your best. But we tell ourselves that you're not enough. And somewhere in that imbalance, that we forget one of the most powerful truths of life, that the way you speak to yourself becomes the foundation of how you live, how you love, and how you grow. Every day, you have an inner dialogue that shapes your reality. The words you whisper to yourself in silence have the power to build you or break you. That you can either be your biggest supporter or your harshest critic. But here's the thing. You cannot grow if you're constantly tearing yourself down, that you cannot bloom in an environment of self-judgment. Growth begins with kindness, and that kindness must start within. That I've learned that the voice inside your head is not just a reflection of how you feel, it's a reflection of what you believe you deserve. That when your inner voice is filled with doubt, you shrink your potential before the world even has a chance to see it. But when your inner voice speaks with encouragement, that you give yourself permission to rise, you begin to walk taller, think clearer, and love yourself with a kind of quiet confidence that no one can take away. That we've all had those moments when we fail, when something doesn't go as planned, when we look in the mirror and see only flaws. In those moments, that the easiest thing to do is criticize. But the truth is, no one ever grows from shame. You don't need to punish yourself into progress. You need to nurture yourself into it. That growth is not about perfection. It's about compassion. The gentler you are with your flaws, the stronger you become in facing them. I remember realizing this during a time when everything seemed uncertain. I was working hard, pushing forward, trying to keep everything together. But inside, I was exhausted. That my mind was full of shoulds and not enoughs. And then one morning, I caught myself saying, "You're failing." I stopped. It hit me. If I spoke to someone and I loved the way I spoke to myself, I would break their spirit. Why was I doing that to me? That day, I made a promise to become my own ally, that not my enemy. It's amazing how things start to shift when you change your inner language. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," say I'll find a way. Instead of "I learned," instead of "I'm not good enough," say "I'm growing." Words carry energy. The moment you choose words of love, patience, and belief, you begin to rewire your mind for resilience. You start to see possibilities instead of problems. That you start to feel worthy, not because you achieved something, but because you finally treated yourself like someone who matters. You have to remember that you spend every moment of your life with yourself. That voice in your head, it's your lifelong companion. So train it to be kind. Train it to uplift you, to guide you, to remind you that even in your lowest moments, you are still becoming. Because real growth doesn't happen in the absence of mistakes, that it happens in how gently you rise after them. And let's be honest, the world is already full of critics. You don't need to add your own name to that list. That the world will question you, doubt you, and sometimes misunderstand you, but your job is not to join that chorus. Your job is to stand with yourself through it all. That speak to yourself the way you would to your best friend, with patience, with grace, with belief. Because when you start treating yourself that way, that you start healing parts of you that you didn't even know were hurting. This doesn't mean you ignore your weaknesses or pretend everything is fine. That it means you hold yourself accountable with compassion, not cruelty. You say, "Yes, I made a mistake, but I can fix it." You say, "Yes, I'm struggling, but I'm learning." You say, "Yes, I'm not there yet, but I'm on my way." That's the kind of self-talk that leads to transformation. That's how you turn pain into wisdom and fear into strength. Think about it. Every time you face a challenge, your inner dialogue determines how you move forward. That if you speak with fear, you hesitate. If you speak with faith, you act. If you speak with love, you grow. The words you repeat become your beliefs. And your beliefs shape your future. So if you want to transform your life, start by transforming your self-talk. You deserve to be on your own side. You deserve to wake up and speak to yourself like you would to someone you deeply care about. Because when your inner world becomes gentle, your outer world begins to bloom. That you begin to attract better, live fuller, and shine brighter. Not because it got easier, but because you stopped fighting with yourself. So today, make a choice that speak to yourself with kindness. Encourage yourself when no one else does. Remind yourself that you are still growing, still learning, still becoming. That because the moment you start talking to yourself with love, you become unstoppable. Learning is not something that ends when you graduate, when you get a job, or when you finally achieve the goal you've been chasing. It's something that never stops. It's the heartbeat of growth. Every single day, life gives us a new lesson. that a new perspective, a new opportunity to evolve. The people who keep growing aren't the ones who have everything figured out. They're the ones who stay curious. They're not afraid to ask questions, to make mistakes, or to start again, because they know that every new skill, every new insight, that every new experience adds another layer to who they are becoming. We often get caught up in the idea that learning only happens in classrooms, through books or formal education. But the truth is, the most powerful lessons are hidden in the everyday moments, in the conversations that challenge us, in the failures that humble us, that in the risks that scare us. Every situation, no matter how small, carries something that can teach you if you're open to seeing it. The problem is that most people stop paying attention when life becomes routine. They stop asking why, stop exploring new ideas, and slowly they stop growing. The most successful, that fulfilled people I've met share one thing in common: an endless hunger to learn. They're constantly seeking ways to expand their minds, that even when they've already achieved great things, they read, they listen, they observe, not because they have to, but because they want to. That they understand that every bit of knowledge adds fuel to their vision. They're not afraid to say, I don't know, because that phrase isn't a weakness. That it's an invitation to grow. It's an invitation to grow. There's something magical that happens when you approach life with curiosity. You start to see the world not as a set of obstacles, but as a classroom. Every person becomes a teacher. Every challenge becomes a lesson. Every failure becomes feedback. That mindset transforms frustration into growth and uncertainty into discovery. When you choose to learn instead of complain, you take control of your evolution. You stop waiting for life to change, and you start creating that change from within. Sometimes learning comes in the most unexpected ways. That it might come from a book that shifts your perspective, a mentor who sees potential you didn't, or even a painful experience that forces you to grow stronger. That some of the hardest lessons in life don't come wrapped in inspiration, they come wrapped in discomfort. But those are often the ones that change you the most. That growth doesn't always feel good, but it's always worth it. And let's talk about humility, because to truly learn, that you have to be humble enough to admit you don't know everything. The moment you believe you've learned it all is the moment you stop evolving. That life has a way of humbling us when we forget that. There's always something new to discover, some perspective we haven't considered, that some wisdom hidden in someone else's experience. When you listen more than you speak, when you observe more than you judge, that you open yourself up to an entirely new world of understanding. I've learned that learning isn't just about gaining information, it's about transformation, that it's about unlearning old patterns that no longer serve you. It's about challenging your beliefs, letting go of your fears, and being brave enough to evolve. Sometimes the growth requires deleting old versions of yourself so you can make space for the person you're becoming. And that process, that constant learning, unlearning, and relearning is what keeps you alive inside. We live in a time where information is everywhere. You can learn a new language, develop a skill or explore a new subject, all from the comfort of your home. But it's not about how much you consume. It's about how much you apply. The true growth happens when knowledge turns into action, when what you learn begins to shape the way you think, the way you work, and the way you treat others. That's what learning with purpose looks like. If you want to keep growing, make it a daily habit to learn something, anything that stretches your mind, that listen to a podcast, read a page of a book, watch a documentary, have a deep conversation. Keep your mind open and your ego in check, because every day you learn something new, that you're one step closer to becoming the best version of yourself. And remember, learning is not a race, it's a journey. You don't have to know everything today. That you just have to be willing to stay curious, to keep exploring, to stay hungry for growth. The world moves fast, but if you stay grounded in curiosity, you'll never fall behind. That you'll keep evolving, not because you have to, but because you choose to. So never stop being a student of life, of people, of yourself. Keep asking questions, that keep exploring new paths, keep feeding your mind with knowledge that uplifts you. Because when you learn something new every single day, that you don't just change what you know, you transform who you are becoming. The people around you shape the energy you carry, whether you realize it or not. Every conversation, that every interaction, every exchange of emotion leaves a trace on your mind and heart. You can't always see it, but you can feel it, that subtle shift in your mood after talking to someone, the sudden spark of motivation when you're around certain people, or the heaviness that follows others. The truth is, we become like the energy we surround ourselves with. That's why who you choose to keep close to your heart matters more than you think. Growth doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in connection. That you can have all the ambition in the world, but if you're surrounded by negativity, jealousy, or constant comparison, your growth will feel like pushing against the wind. That energy is contagious. If you're not careful, you'll start absorbing the fears and doubts of those around you. But when you surround yourself with people who believe in progress, who inspire you to become more, who celebrate your wins instead of competing with them, everything shifts. That suddenly your environment becomes a source of power instead of pressure. That I've learned that one of the most transformative choices you can make is deciding who gets access to your energy. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. That some people are lessons, some are blessings, and a few rare ones are both. It's not about judging others, it's about protecting your peace. That because the people you let close to you will either water your growth or drain your spirit, and you have to be brave enough to choose wisely even when it's hard. That we live in a culture that often confuses familiarity with connection. That just because someone has been in your life for years doesn't mean they're meant to walk with you in your next chapter. Growth changes your energy, and not everyone will understand the new version of you. That's okay. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your evolution. When you start rising, that some people will cheer for you, others will question you, and a few will quietly distance themselves. That don't take it personally. Your growth will always disrupt those who are committed to staying the same. That surrounding yourself with growth energy doesn't just mean being around successful or positive people. It means being around authenticity. People who speak truth, that who hold you accountable with kindness, who push you to see beyond your fears. People who remind you of your strength when you forget it. That the ones who don't just shrug when you're shining, but also when you're struggling. Those are the people who help you grow, not by fixing you, but by believing in you. When I think about the people who have truly impacted my life, it's not the loudest or most glamorous ones. It's the ones who made me feel safe to dream, to fail, to learn. That it's the ones who challenged my excuses and reminded me of my power. Growth energy is not about constant positivity. It's about realness. That it's about surrounding yourself with people who see potential where you see doubt, who push you to take one more step when you feel like giving up. That you have to ask yourself, who are you becoming when you're around the people in your life? Do they make you feel lighter or heavier? Do they encourage your dreams or criticize them? Do they inspire you to evolve or keep you small so they feel comfortable? Because every relationship is an exchange. That you're not just sharing time, you're sharing energy. And the more intentional you become about who you give that energy to, the more aligned your life will feel. But there's another side to this. As much as you seek growth energy, you have to be it too. You have to bring light into the spaces you enter. You have to inspire others by example. Be the person who lifts others, who listens without judgment, who celebrates others' success without envy. When you radiate growth energy, that you attract it back. The universe always mirrors what you give. So if you want to be surrounded by people who uplift, encourage, and challenge you, that start by becoming that person yourself. And yes, there will be times when you'll have to walk alone for a while. That at times when you'll outgrow certain people or environments that once felt like home, it will hurt. But that's how growth works. It asks you to let go of what no longer aligns with who you're becoming. You can love people and still choose distance. That you can wish them well and still move forward. Protecting your energy doesn't mean closing your heart. It means choosing peace over pleasing, alignment over attachment. The people in your circle should remind you of who you are, not make you question it. They should push you to dream bigger, to think deeper, to rise higher. That life is too short to spend in spaces that dim your light. So take a look around, and if something or someone feels heavy, that maybe it's time to make room for something that feels like growth. Because at the end of the day, that you will always rise higher when you're surrounded by people who want to see you fly. That there's a kind of power in the quiet moments before you fall asleep. When the world slows down, the noise fades, and you're finally left alone with your thoughts. In that silence that your mind begins to process the day, everything you did, everything you felt, everything you wish you had done differently. That most people rush through this part, too tired to think or too distracted to reflect, but that's where the secret lies. That because how you end your day matters just as much as how you start it. Reflection is where growth becomes real. That it's where you take all the chaos of the day and turn it into clarity. Every night offers a chance to reset, to realign yourself with who you want to be. That no matter how your day went, good, bad, messy, or beautiful, you get to close it with intention. You get to pause and ask yourself, what did I learn today? that what can I do better tomorrow? It's not about judgment or guilt. It's about awareness. Growth doesn't come from constantly moving forward. That it comes from knowing when to stop, look back, and understand what the journey is teaching you. I've always believed that reflection is a kind of quiet bravery, that it takes courage to look at yourself honestly, to admit when something didn't go right, and to take responsibility without shame. That so many of us are afraid to slow down because we're scared of what we might see in the mirror of our own thoughts. But that mirror is where your strength lies. That's where you meet the real you, the one behind all the noise, the one who's still learning, still trying, still becoming that. And when you take those few minutes to check in with yourself, something beautiful happens. You begin to notice the patterns that shape your life, that the same thoughts that keep you small, the same choices that lift you higher. You start seeing where your energy goes, who you give it to, and whether it truly serves your peace. That reflection isn't about changing overnight. It's about becoming aware enough to change over time. Every night that you give yourself a chance to evolve just a little bit more than the day before. The world moves fast. We're constantly chasing goals, meeting deadlines, that juggling responsibilities, trying to keep up with everything. But without reflection, you lose connection to your purpose, to your emotions, to your growth. That it's like running a race without ever checking the map. You might be moving, but are you heading in the right direction? When you take time each night to reflect, that you start moving with clarity, you stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. Sometimes this reflection can be simple. Just writing down one thing you're grateful for, one lesson you learned, one small victory you achieved. Other nights that it might mean confronting something deeper, an emotion you ignored, a decision you regret, a truth you've been avoiding. But even those moments are sacred because they teach you how to be honest with yourself. And self-honesty is the foundation of transformation. That reflection also allows you to release. We carry so much weight throughout the day, the words we didn't say, the mistakes we made, the stress we absorbed. And if we don't let it go, it piles up. That's why some people wake up already tired, because their mind never got a chance to rest. Before you sleep, take a moment to exhale the day. Let go of what you can't control. Forgive yourself for what you didn't know. Free your mind from the need to be perfect. You don't need to have it all figured out tonight. You just need to be willing to try again tomorrow. That one of the most beautiful things about nightly reflection is that it grounds you in gratitude. No matter how hard the day was, there's always something, a small win, a kind gesture, a moment of peace, a lesson that strengthened you. When you focus on those moments, your perspective shifts, that you stop seeing the day as a series of problems and start seeing it as progress. Gratitude reminds you that even when things don't go your way, that they're still shaping you in ways you may not yet understand. This nightly ritual to reflect, reset, and realign becomes your personal compass. That it keeps you steady amid chaos. It reminds you that growth isn't measured by how fast you move, but by how deeply you understand yourself along the way. That every night is a quiet opportunity to return to your purpose, to check if your actions align with your values, to remind yourself why you started in the first place. That there's a calm that comes when you close your day with intention. It's not the calm of perfection, but the calm of peace, knowing that you showed up, that you tried, that you're still learning. When you give yourself that moment of grace before sleep, you wake up lighter, clearer, and ready to begin again. That you stop carrying the weight of yesterday into tomorrow. So tonight, before you close your eyes, pause, take a breath. Reflect on what made you smile, what challenged you, what taught you something. Let it all sink in, the beauty, the mistakes, the progress. And then gently remind yourself every day is a chapter, that every night is a chance to begin anew. Because when you learn to reflect, reset, and realign each night, you turn your ordinary days into a lifelong journey of transformation.